So today we're joined by Chris Wallace, co-founder and president of InnerView, helping organizations translate their customer strategies into implementable plans for frontline teams to execute. And they've recently relaunched their InFront platform, which is the Frontline Insights Engine. Great to have you on the Unified Brand podcast, Chris. The last time we spoke was the beginning of 2022, which was episode 70, which I urge listeners to go back and listen to because it was a great conversation. But yeah, could you reintroduce who you are, what you do, a bit more about InnerView and the InFront platform?
Sure. And Chris, thanks for having me back on. I enjoyed the discussion the first time around and glad to be back with you. But yeah, for your listeners, our organization, we are alignment experts. We're translators. When people ask what our superpower is, we're able to take marketing speak and marketing strategy and turn it into something that your frontline teams, your sales channels, your service teams can embrace. Because a lot of times that's a disconnect for organizations. And so we really do help drive that go-to-market strategy down to the frontline teams. And, we typically are doing it for typically consumer brands or business to consumer brands. So ultimately companies that are trying to reach the end user, trying to reach the consumer market. And yeah, InFront platform is really that's our secret sauce. That's the tool that helps us get inside the head of these frontline teams, understand sort of their perception of the message of the marketing value proposition, and really, feed back the people building the strategy really valuable insights and information from the people who serve the customers every day.
That's really cool. So it kind of sits in between the frontline and the marketing strategy. And you mentioned it there. I was going to ask, is there kind of a feedback loop? So how does that work with the platform itself? How does the platform connect the two parties, and how does it sort of do that translation process?
Yeah, so the word translation is a great way to frame it, because what we do is really the elegance of InFront is really in its simplicity. What we did with InFront is we took a market research process. So think about the way that most organizations go out and collect voice of customer insights, right? Understanding what customers want, understanding how their value proposition is resonating. They're using that voice of the customer data to do anything from product design to campaign messaging, to brand positioning, all those types of things. But it's really about the customer's perception. And inside organizations, you look at the way that there's a feedback loop with frontline teams, and it's usually one of two things. Organizations have one of two feedback loops with their frontline teams. Either it's some sort of annual employee survey where they say, how do you like your job? Are you happy with how much you make? And the other is, if there's a product launch or there's some new initiative, they'll take a training and then they do a quiz afterwards. And the feedback loop becomes a quiz, like, well, did they get the answers right? Yes or no, whatever the case may be. But nowhere in there are they actually asking their perceptions on, when you serve a customer, how do you feel about what you're representing? Do you feel like we're hitting the mark? Do you feel like our positioning hits the mark? Is it resonating with customers? What are you seeing from customers? What do they want? So what we've done is sort of taken it out of, this realm of, is it about your job, or is it whether or not you know the answer to it? And it's really, what do you see every day? What are your perceptions? What are your attitudes around the brand and the products you represent? That's the feedback loop that we're funneling back to the people, setting the strategy. And we really start by working with the architects, the brand architects, product architects, to really understand, what is it that you're communicating externally? What is the message you're trying to deliver externally? And we use that as a baseline. And then we do a comparison point with the frontline teams from that baseline to say, okay, well, marketing leader, you see it as this. Frontline team sees it as this. The gap is 35% or 40% or whatever that gap might be.
That's really interesting. That's really cool as well, because a lot of the times, obviously, a brand is built in the audience's mind. So if you can actually get feedback on what the actual audience is experiencing, feeling, and kind of understanding about the product, that can be invaluable for that company. So what kind of metrics do you use to measure, and how do you sort of frame that back to the marketing team?
Yeah, so the first one I mentioned is, I sort of alluded to, is alignment. So we are providing an alignment metric back to every one of our clients. And essentially what we're telling them is, we're giving them a measure of, your message started in your office, and when it left and it went from point B to C to D and all the way down to your frontline channels, all those different nodes that it passed through, how much of that story is intact by the time it gets done to them? How, are they perceiving the value that you want to deliver to customers the same way that you built the story, right? Are you influencing them the way that you want to influence them so they'll deliver that message to the customer? So we're giving them a sense of how well aligned they are as an organization. So that's the first. The second is we have an advocacy score. So essentially what we're doing is we're looking at, when we do the research, we're asking the frontline teams what they believe is important to customers. And then we're asking them how well do they believe their brand does? How well do you perform on these attributes that are so important to customers? And we do an overlay of those two things to give them an advocacy score where we're breaking down their customer facing audiences into advocates, undecideds, and critics. So we're giving them this sort of three-prong approach to say, okay, you just launched this product and you have 21% of your people are considered advocates, which means when they stand in front of a customer, they believe that you do well on the things that customers care about most. I mean, it's really that simple. Who are the ones that believe we deliver on the things that the customers care about most, and we deliver well? So the advocacy score is the second main metric. We're working on some other KPIs that we will fold in, but those are the two primary ones for right now.
Okay, cool. So in terms of that, what are some of the insights that you found with your clients and with people that you've that are using the platform? What's some of the insights they've gained, and how have they then taken those insights and used them to reevaluate, restructure, or even shift a positioning or a campaign based on it?
Yeah, so great question. So I'm going to give you a recent example. We had a client that has it's not a new product. It's sort of their core product. It's their bedrock product. And they've seen a lot more competition in the marketplace around this product. And we sent out our study and we came back to them. We had an analysis, and the analysis said that they were high alignment and low advocacy. And this was between so high alignment meaning that leadership and the field see the value proposition, statistically speaking, and they're in very close alignment. So they see the same positives and they see the same negatives. But the negatives that they see on both sides are up in terms of the tiering of what they believe is most important to customers. A couple of the most important things to customers, they see that their brand is struggling mightily on those. So what that told us when we did the breakdown, specifically what the feedback was, there's high belief in the product that you're offering. They believe that you are a category leader in terms of the product that you're offering. You're seeing significant price pressure and promotional price pressure from your competition, and there's high anxiety around price. Now, I will say that not every single one, frankly, price is rarely a major conversation point when we do a study. And you'd think it'd be the other way around, that price would sort of dominate and front lines would complain that the price is too high. That's actually not usually the case. But in this particular one, both leadership and the front lines had significant anxiety around price. So we went back to them and said, okay, great product, struggling around the price. We have to help you build a narrative for your frontline teams to really sell the value of it. And we had detailed feedback from the front lines on where they saw the most value. So we're able to take their feedback on what they think is performing well and build a narrative that they can push back out to their front lines. So when they get those price conversations, they can say, we're worth it, right? Think about frontline salespeople. It's hard for them to say, no, we're not the cheapest, but we're worth it. They need the talking points to really explain why we're worth it, why we can charge a premium. The good news is that story was there. They just didn't have it put back together yet. So that's what we're helping them do.
That's really cool. So that actual feedback is kind of a living, organic kind of story that is kind of continually improving, continually getting better just through the platform's kind of insights and how it develops going forward.
Yeah, and you mentioned that we reintroduced this platform and actually rebranded it as In Front. This was August of last year, so August of 22, we relaunched the product and rebranded it as In Front. And really, one of the main differences with the relaunch of In Front is how everything now is set up to be measured continuously, not just once. So it's not a custom study that's done just at a point in time. It's a customizable study that focuses on a core priority, whether it's a product or a key message you're putting out in the marketplace. It could be a rebrand, it could be a repositioning. whatever that core value proposition is, we can build a customized study to evaluate it, but then it's set up so you can track it over time and you can watch these KPIs go up or down over time, and we can peg that to your performance.
That's cool. So in terms of the sort of background you have and the passion you have around this area, what makes you so passionate about the kind of the front line and the sales staff and kind of their drive and helping them to sort of improve what they do, but also give that customer experience a lift?
I've been one. That's my primary motivator is everybody that's on our team has sold before. So I've been there in terms of having, think about the average frontline person, salesperson, anybody who interacts with a customer. Think about all the things their organization is asking them to buy into, right? All the products, all the value propositions, all the new initiatives, all the programs, all the digital stuff. They're being asked to embrace so many different things. They truly are the tip of the spear for the brand. And so I've been there. So evaluating, giving frontline teams a voice in the process is something we're very passionate about. One, because we've walked a mile in those shoes, and two, is from our early days, as an organization, we've been doing this, 12, going on 12 plus years. We've worked with call center agents, retail teams, really people who, let's be honest, are underappreciated, right? These are underappreciated folks. They're asked to do a lot. We have seen the impact that it can make when they have a voice, right? If their voice is really treated as intelligence inside an organization and they're given the opportunity to share their perspective on what they see, what customers care about, those types of things. If you listen to them and support them in new and innovative ways based on the feedback that you get, the power that you unlock from these folks is just incredible, right? Just a little bit of understanding and empathy for them goes a really long way. So that's really the second element, is we've really seen it radically change the career trajectory of front lines, the satisfaction of the front lines, retention of those employees. It's amazing what you can get out of somebody if you're willing to listen to them first rather than jam something down their throat.